Well, what is up, and welcome back to the Fortman Podcast. It is always such a pleasure to get to do a guest in person, and my guest today, his office is about 20 feet from me, so I'm so happy to have Martin from Duck Commander on my podcast today.
Christian, thanks for having me, man. I've always wondered what went on in this room, because it used to be our conference room, like tearing down the fourth wall for the viewer at home, and man, I was like, and then I saw John David, which kind of hurt that you asked him first, but that's fine. He's a little louder. I get it. Like, he's more of a good time. I'm more kind of just mellow, chill. So, no, I'm kidding about that, by the way. But it is a good time, and I'm glad to be here, man. Cool to see what you're doing with this thing, for sure. Because I keep up with everybody. I mean, if it goes on in this building, I have a reason as general manager to kind of keep up with everything that goes on. So, it's, really cool.
Yeah, well, as the general manager, I appreciate you for letting me have the space.
That's fine. Look, it's fine. We'll work out the rent one day, but for now we're good.
We'll work it out. Well, it's perfect. Like I said, your office is like 20 feet away, but then where you record Duck Room is like probably 5-10 feet away.
So. Yeah, it's in between.
Yeah, we're
just a sandwich.
We're next door neighbors. We're next door neighbors. Well, so I mean, obviously, man, I know so much about you just from being up here and getting to spend time with you. But the one question I do want to talk to you about, because, growing up, I did watch Duck Dynasty. I was one of those people, like millions of everyone else throughout the world, who did watch Duck Dynasty. But who was Martin before Duck Dynasty? Ooh. And how did you and Willie meet, and how did you become such a big role in the show, and you weren't technically family?
Yeah, man, that's a lot to unpack there. Because I would say pre-Duck Dynasty, I was pretty much a punk. I mean, like, I was not a punk because I've always been just kind of chill, but just a heathen. Like, into the world. Yeah. I'd do it. I didn't care. Like, you want to do that? It sounds like a great idea. Even though the whole time, like, this is so stupid. But I was a good yes man. If you had a bad idea, I wanted to be along with it. So I was like, so did a lot of that. Grew up here locally in West Monroe, been here my whole life. And then, in college, I was working at TP Outdoors, was running the gun counter, as the manager. And that's when Willie, somewhere in there, Willie took over the company. Willie and Corey bought Duck Commander from Phil and Kay, or, bought half of it or whatever. So he started getting all the shotguns and stuff shipped through us. And we met through that. And then, I was a Duck Commander fan, period, because I was a duck hunter, and I lived here with them, but I didn't really know them. And like, you just knew Phil lived at the end of the road, and you didn't dare go there. Like, and it was weird because everybody's like, well, just go to church with him. I was like, well, that seems totally weird to go to church, talk about duck hunting. So no, I'm going to stay away from that too. But then meeting him there, and we became friends because I knew that if he came in our store, that was good for our store. So I wanted him to come there. I made it inviting, made it easy on him. And from that, we became friends and started playing golf and playing poker and doing all things that Willie does. And next thing I know, here I am. I'm working for free for like the first 3 months. I didn't get paid. But that was on me because I didn't want to be paid. I was just in grad school trying to just let my brain breathe. And I was like, what's the easiest thing you got? And he's like, I need somebody in sales. I was like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Not a problem. Like, that's mind-numbing labor. I'm in. And from then on, he said when he got an email from me with a @duckcommander.com address, that he should probably start paying me. Yeah. So from then on, I started getting paid, and we still ran around together. I was like his second or third assistant ever, but then he realized I was way more valuable than that because that's one of the weird ones. I could do everything at the company. Like, I knew how to blow duck calls. I could film. So he was like, no, you need to stay at the house. I need another assistant. So so here we are. You know? And once I ended up in the duck call room, Jason Godwin never let me go. It was like Hotel California. Yeah. Once I ended up there, that's where I stayed. Yeah.
So how many years were you working for Duck Commander before Duck Dynasty started?
Let's see. I've been here. I was looking through pictures the other day on a hard drive because I was looking for something, and I really did not know how long I'd been here. And I've been here for 14 years now. So 2009 is when I started. The show, Duck Dynasty, was 2012. So 3 years. But in those 3 years prior, we had Benelli Presents Duck Commander. So I started here during season 1 filming of that. So I was not a part of that show or anything. I just kind of run around with Willie. And then season 2, they included me. And season 3, they included me. Yeah. So And then it just kind of snowballed from there into the natural duck call building dynamic, which is what the A&E folks saw. And so that's why me and Godwin were in there, and they had us a part of the show.
Yeah,
so.
That is so awesome. Yeah, because I mean, it really is. I think, you and Godwin are like the two non-family members who are.
Yeah, everybody always asks, are y'all their cousins?
Yeah.
Are you there? I'm like, no, man. We're just...
I bet when people see you like they do, just with the beard, you play the part. So I feel like people probably do just think that you're somehow part of the family.
Oh, they think we're all related, which, we always say the same thing. We're all blood kin through Jesus anyway. So but I'm just like, no, man, I tell them the same thing. I'm like, look, those guys have to have somebody they can fire. So they keep me and Godwin around because they can fire us and there's no hard feeling. They're not family. Like it's not an uncomfortable Thanksgiving if you let us go.
Yeah.
Like,
That's true.
If you let somebody else go, Thanksgiving and Christmas get weird.
Yeah, so. It does get weird. It gets really weird for sure. So you were at TP Outdoors when you were doing your grad stuff and then you started working here. At what point, just because you mentioned, being a heathen throughout, high school and college and stuff, when did that kind of change for you when you started working for Duck
when
Hunt?
I started here, I was running around with Willie and we were doing a lot of different things. Running around with baseball players and you name it, like all that stuff. Before Luke Bryan was Luke Bryan and before Jason Aldean was Jason Aldean, they had like 2 songs each. Yeah. So we were out all hours of the night. Like, and of course me, I was like, heck yeah. Like, this is my life right here. I can do this. But I kept noticing Willie was like, he was there, but he wasn't doing what we were doing. And I was like, I wonder if he's judging me, but I didn't really think nothing of it. And then when I got into the actual duck call room or the little shed beside Phil and Kay's house, where I was working basically a 9 to 5, it wasn't 9 to 5, but might as well have been. It was as steady of a deal as I'd been on since I'd been here. I just started looking around and noticing like Jace and Godwin and Cy were always happy, in a good mood. No matter what life was throwing at them, they were still just like chill, fine. They didn't get frustrated about much. And so being a biologist by trade, I just started making a checklist. Like, all right, we work the same place, same hours, make roughly the same money. And I started making this list and I get down and it come down to the only difference between me and them was that they had accepted Jesus and I hadn't. And I was like, well, being a heathen, right? No, that can't be it. Let me start my list over. Tear that up and start over. And then I come back and I'm like, okay, that's still the only one. And so, I grew up in church. My grandfather was an Assembly of God preacher. And so I grew up in church, was raised, knew all the scriptures. But for me at that point, prior to that, church was just, and a relationship with God was, it's like just memorization, beating my cousins, like being better than them. Because, competition drives me. So like Sunday school, I wanted to be first done and I wanted to be the guy up front and like all that stuff. Yeah. So there was never really like a close relationship. Mine was like, it was like business. It was like, oh no, I'm going to beat everybody in this class. Like, I had to have an A. I was an A student. And through that, I knew it all. I could recite anything pretty much from part of the Bible you want. I was like, yeah, I know that, blah, blah. But it didn't mean anything to me. Like, it was just the words. And so I started studying on my own, not even telling them what I'm doing and observing, and like actually studying and looking and reading, not for memorization, but for context and for depth and all that kind of stuff. And then finally one day, I remember, I don't remember when it was, but I just looked up Jason. I said, hey man, I just need to know more about Jesus and like what y'all's take on it is. And he said, well, it's about time. And I was like, what? He said, I've been wondering how long it's going to take for you to ask. He said, because I know that's the one thing holding you back in life. And I was like, wow. Well, you didn't think to bring that up at some point? And he was like, no, you're too smart. He said, you would have just ran from it. And I said, you're probably right. Yeah, I probably would have. I'd have just dismissed you as something else. And then I said, it'd have taken even longer to get to this point right here. So then we started studying every day, really reading, getting into things, breaking it down. And I started attending Whites Ferry Road with them just to get out of my grandfather's church, get somewhere new, get somewhere fresh, just where nobody knew me. Like, nobody knew who I was. I mean, they did because it's West Monroe, but like I worked for Duck Commander, but Duck Dynasty hadn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
None of that stuff had happened. And it was really cool. And I'll never forget, I went back to my grandfather's church on Mother's Day because I'm a mama's boy. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, so my mom was going there. I went to be with my mom on Mother's Day of 2011. I'm just reading, still studying really hard. I'm reading Acts and Acts 2:38, 39. You know, go repent, be baptized, forgiveness of your sins, all that good stuff. And at that same time, my grandfather, which was so weird for it to be a holiday, just openly made a baptistry call, which, if you know a lot about Assembly of God Faith, that's not a big, those are generally like planned events. That's not like, hey, we're going to have this on, you know, this Sunday, third Sunday of every quarter or whatever. But this was just a random one out of the blue. And I'm reading, and I heard, and I looked up, and I read, I heard, and I looked up, and I said, oh, he talking to me. Like, that's meant for me. So I marched on up there.
Wow.
Got baptized Mother's Day 2011 and have never looked back.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's just kind of a weird winding road that it took to get there. But I'm thankful for all the curves. I mean, I'm not, you know, I was a punk, but in that I got to meet people who then I still have a relationship with, and have watched their lives transform too, where if it wouldn't have been for those curves, maybe I don't meet that, you know, maybe we don't have those kinds of relationships. So really cool. And now, you know, it's fun, man. I tell everybody, like, that night I got baptized, best I ever slept in my life.
Wow.
Because I no longer cared if I woke up again.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Like, because you know then that feeling of assurance, wherever I'm going, is better than where I'm at.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how good this place is, that's better.
That's so true.
It's freeing, man.
Yeah.
It's like, heck yeah, let's do this, you know?
Have you ever had an unexpected medical bill? And even worse, you realize that you can't pay for it? I've had plenty of them in the past. When I was in middle school, I broke my nose. When I was in high school, I had other injuries just from playing baseball so much. And even now having 2 kids, there's been things that we've had to go to the hospital for, and even just the doctor, where we were not expecting a bill so high. And there's nothing worse than having to go to the hospital unexpectedly, but it's even worse when it's unexpected and you are trying to find the resources to pay for it and you can't find them. So I have 2 questions for you. How are you paying for your family's healthcare, and how's it working out for you? If it's working out perfectly, then great. If not, I have a biblical solution for you. Samaritan Ministries. Samaritan Ministries is a community of Christians paying one another's medical bills. It's not insurance, but it's assurance that you're part of a healthcare sharing community where members care for one another spiritually and financially when a medical need arises. So here are the 3 reasons that it can be right for you and your family. 1, there are no networks which put you in control of your family's healthcare. You know what's best for them, so you choose the doctors and hospitals to go to and have a say in the treatments that they receive. 2, you're part of a Christian community. So when you have a medical need, fellow members send money directly to you to help pay your medical bills, and you'll do the same for them, all while praying for and encouraging one another. 3, the best thing is that you could join today. Start healthcare sharing with Samaritan Ministries the day you complete your membership application or choose a future month. It's up to you. So whether it's a broken bone, an unexpected diagnosis, or other medical emergency, you'll find comfort knowing you're connected to 80,000 Christian households across the nation who stand ready to care for one another spiritually and financially during a time it's needed the most. And it can be more affordable than what you're paying now. Check it out at samaritanministries.org/Huff. That's samaritanministries.org/Huff. Go join today. That's so cool. And cool. It's just cool. It's, you know, it's really cool to think about just God's timing in it, because, you know, I'm sure you could probably speak to, you know, you just mentioned the storage with like Jason and Luke and being out in those things and just being in the world, because, you know, something we talk about in the podcast a lot, like worldly things are fun, like but they're fleeting, you know, like you said, like waking up, you know, it's like, I think sometimes we just talk about sin in the way where like, it's not enjoyable. Like doing things of the world, like it is fun, but it's not like there's no true like lasting satisfaction in it. So what do you think? You know, how do you think your life would have? I don't want to maybe say panned out, but if you hadn't have had those moments, you know, being baptized and having that before Duck Dynasty hit and you did get famous, like what do you think What do you
Ooh.
think would have happened?
Your boy would have been on the cover of TMZ so fast. I mean, like, yeah, because I didn't care. Like, there was the repercussions. What were?
Yeah.
Who cares? Like, and I realized then. I always said before then, prior to then. So I'm a big sports guy. Obviously, love college sports, especially. I always wondered how those guys could not keep their nose clean.
Yeah.
For 4 years, get whatever you need. I'm like, man, how can y'all not just stay out of trouble? Then Duck Dynasty happened. And I realized that anything in this world I wanted was right here.
Yeah.
I knew somebody that could get me anything I wanted. And
Yeah.
I mean anything.
Yeah.
Like, just line it up. Line up which level of debauchery you want. I could find it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't hard to find. And if that hadn't happened a year prior,
Yeah.
I mean, they would have obviously just weeded me out, I'm sure. Like,
Yeah.
no, you can't trust him. Get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, which is fine. That would have been fine and their prerogative to do that as well. So, but with that, you know, instead, with all that timing now, I get to go speak at churches for wild game dinners and do a lot of public appearances and stuff. And you get to really see people's lives transform, man. And it's really, really cool. And it's all timing.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
I couldn't imagine being John Luke, Sadie, all the kids, because they were kids when the show started. They were legit children. Like, Bella's still sitting in my lap in the green rooms of whenever we were filming. She's just up there laid. I'm like, I just couldn't imagine that. Like that for me, I thank God they've all turned out as solid as they have. But I think a lot of that comes from a solid home base too. And I think that's one thing we never lost during it was when we did that on Sunday nights, if we were in town, we all met together. And when I say we all, I'm talking about everybody that worked at Duck Commander. We had house church at Jace's, Willie's, Phil's. Didn't matter. We all got back together to stay grounded in our faith. And I think that was a key step. I think if we would have still just stayed kind of separate and come together I think you could have had some wander off and do some weird things. But I think those moments of togetherness, even outside of work, just to lift each other up, were really vital to the success of us and even to the show. So
that's really cool because there is such a groundedness to it, right? Because you go from, you know, not being famous to being super famous to now being not as famous just because the show's not still happening, right? So if you're anchored in, you know, if fame is your anchor or if some other, you know, thing like that is kind of what you're tethered to, then you will be disappointed.
Yeah.
But if you have something that is, you know, strong, which is, you know, Jesus for us, like you just ride the waves of life, whether you're famous or not as famous or whatever. Like, so it's cool that, it's really just cool that happened to you, like you said, a year prior to having, you know, the biggest show on cable TV.
Yeah, what I call winning the lottery. Like, we don't really realize it, but like every one of us won the lottery. Yeah. Like, you know, that's a 1 in however many chance, and we all just hit it. Now, some of us had a bigger jackpot than others, like, and that's cool. But for me to be 38 and married for going on almost 10 years now, have 2 kids, and have next to nothing in debt because of that show, that's winning the lottery. Like, you know, our lives are way better off than people who get out of college with a mound of student debt that then have to start working to pay off that and try to buy a house. Like, we're leaps and bounds ahead of even where my parents were. And we weren't wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but we never wanted for anything either. Like, my parents both worked their tail off. And so that's really cool that hopefully, you know, played right and played well, that my kids will never have to want for anything either. Can always provide for them. If they want a new fishing rod, hey, let's go get you a new fishing rod. You know, we won't have to go pick up Coke cans to get a new fishing rod or something like that. So really a cool thing. You know, and if I act like I had anything to do with it, it's the good Lord's provision. It's not, it's not us. Like, nothing we did to deserve it. He just said, here you go. And we took it.
That's awesome.
You know, and those opportunities don't come around often, but they seem to come around more often than not when you just follow him. That's what, like, I'm like, man, what are we going to do now? Like, golly, this thing, you know, what's next? And then all of a sudden, like, well, let's try a podcast. Well, boom. And like, So it just keeps
Just keeps
happening, but I think it's because, or not I think, I know it's because we keep the captain of the ship the same, and it's not us. We're just, we back there riding in coach, just kind of, chilling, whatever, and we let the good Lord drive everything and just follow that path.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, you've been married for 10 years, you just said, and you'll have two kids who are twins. So you had two kids at the same time. But how did you and your wife meet?
So we actually met kind of because of the show. I had went to speak in a deal right outside of Nashville. And they had this big group, and they had it was like, it's a kind of a weird illness group that afterwards they were like, "Do you mind praying with them?" I was like, "Oh man, that's cool, whatever." So prayed with them. Some of them reached back out via Twitter. Twitter was kind of the big thing. And just so happened, one of the girls there went to high school with Brittany, and then Brittany saw that we interacted on social media, and she was like, "Hey, do you know them or whatever?" And like, "Yeah, he was spoke at our church, whatever." And she's like, "I'd really like to meet him." So I was back up in Nashville. And she introduced us, and I was like, "Wow, she's pretty cool. Like this chick's pretty cool." And we decided, like, hung out for a weekend basically, because we got a lot of people in Nashville, right? I mean, between Jason, Luke, now all my in-laws, obviously, but I had other friends up there that I've hunted with, Dallas Davidson, and through the years just gotten to know them. And we were like, "Man, we're not going to do anything. It's 8 hours apart." And then like 4 months into it, we were like, "What are we doing? This is dumb." So we decided to start dating, and that was in 2013. And then we got married in 2015. I decided to push it to a 5 year so anniversaries would be easier to remember. She was like, I was like, "Oh no, let's put it in 2015." So I always know, like, zeros and fives are big ones.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to. Yeah. So we got 5 year, 10 year, 15 year. If the year's a 0 or 5, that's a big one. We need to pay attention there. And so yeah, and that's how we met. Just did the long distance thing for a while, which I think was actually really good for us. Because it taught us how to function in a relationship without one of us there, which is vital to even the life that I have now. Working here, as much as I travel, have to do company appearances, have to do the church appearances and all those kind of things. There's a lot of times, and especially now with the boys, that Brittany just can't come. So it's allowed us to figure out how to function independently as well as dependently when we're back together. So, I mean, I think it's a pretty good skill set.
I hadn't even thought about that. That's cool. Yeah, like doing long distance, and then because you're prepping for that for marriage.
Yeah.
Like, in a way, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it was. And looking back, you didn't know it then. At the time, it seemed miserable. It was like, man, I just wish she was here or whatever. But then when you look back on it, like, actually the hardest part was learning to live together. Like, because we went from 8 hours distance to 12 feet. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Well, I don't know about this.
Well, me and Sadie was so funny because we dated long distance for like a year, and then we were engaged long distance for 5 or 6 months, and then we were married for 2 months, or like probably 3 or 4, and then COVID hit. We went from like long distance to like literally quarantining for a year or whatever it was. So yeah. It definitely was an adjustment. Yeah, for sure.
That COVID life was wild, man.
It was
me and Brittany fished a lot.
Yeah,
that was because I figured out we can't stay in this house all day together. We gotta get outside. So we fished a whole heck of a lot that summer, and it's wild, man. I tell everybody that first year of marriage is tough. Yeah, it is hard because you got two selfish people that are now saying we're not going to be selfish anymore, and guess what they are? Selfish. Yeah. They're still selfish. Yeah. I mean, you've had however many years prior to that to be trained to be selfish. You think you're going to get over that in one ceremony?
Pornography is not a comfortable subject to talk about, but did you know that every 7 out of 10 men in the church and 1 out of 3 women today struggle with pornography? I used to be one of those men. Throughout high school and early on in college, pornography was something that I really struggled with. And I struggled with it for so long because it's a secret sin, right? It's something that you can feel shame about, and you don't think anyone can relate to it, or there's no one that you can go to talk to. And that's where Covenant Eyes comes in. And the cool thing about Covenant Eyes is that it works through accountability. So when you sign up, you will choose an ally who will receive your device reports and walk with you toward a life free from porn and the life that God desires for you. Freedom and healing can begin today. So don't let shame keep you from the life that God has for you. Take back your life, your marriage, and your relationships. Try it for free for 30 days by visiting covenanteyes.com and entering promo code HUFF at checkout. There's an app, but you're going to want to go sign up on the website first. Go to covenanteyes.com, promo code HUFF at checkout. And that's the thing too. It's like, but I think most people, and this is just how, at least growing up, I was just heard it was like, it's more so selfish with like possessions, which it is, like, selfish with, you should clean the house, and you kind of like almost like a changing system of like, if I do this, you should kind of do that. But really, at least what we've kind of found, what I found personally, it's like it's more so selfish with like feelings and like, like I want to go do this for the weekend. You should let me go do it. Like I want to go do this in the morning. So it's really like, and then if there's a conversation that needs to be had, but you don't want to have a hard conversation, you're like, you want to be selfish to keep the peace, or like just to not have to have a difficult conversation.
Oh yeah.
So you'll prolong something like that. So I found it to be more so selfish with like you wanting to almost be like comfortable. If that makes sense, rather than just like, hey, pick up your towel because I'd like the house clean. Like
I would agree with that. And see, I come from a family who, like you said, we just didn't talk about the uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
Like you just kind of sat there and observed them, and you did little things to maybe change patterns of behavior that you wanted to without saying this. And she come from a family that, boom, head on.
Uh-huh.
So you want to talk about with us, because I'm like major conflict avoider. Like, no, it's fine, whatever. I don't care what it doesn't matter, because I just don't want to.
Yeah.
For me, a lot of times those things aren't worth it. Now we have had some extremely hard conversations that are 100% worth it. But for me, I have to sit back and evaluate, is this worth what we're going to go through to get to an expected result? Mm-hmm. And it's like, if it ain't worth it at the time, I just shy away from it. I'm like, no, we'll circle back and just keep it in the list. But at the same time, when you do that, if you make that decision, you can't sit there and harbor it inside. Yeah, like, you've got to just let it go.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing. Yeah.
You've got to let it go, knowing that it'll come back at another date. And some of that at the beginning was I would still harbor it inside, knowing we needed to talk about it, but I'm not going to right now. So then once I finally figured out, and we figured it out through actually counseling, and it's one of those deals that I recommend every couple.
For sure. Premarital,
absolutely. After a year, go back for a little tune-up.
Yeah,
just go in there, get a tune-up. Look, you get your oil changed and your brakes done every year. That's fine. Do that.
Yeah.
And then do it as you need it or want it. And so, like, for us, it's like a 5-year deal. So we did it at 1. We did it at 5. She actually just started some stuff with Freddie down at the end of the hall, and I've sat in on a couple of those sessions with her. Like those. Yeah. But seeing that I will go be there for those is like incredibly encouraging, because I do care. Like I want to know how I can help and not just guess that I'm helping. Like, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
And a lot of times that comes across better with an unbiased third party in the room. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, okay. Like, because what could have led to an argument, now it's just a discussion. Like, we're just talking, like, and I think that's a really cool thing. And I would, from our end, make sure that person's faith-based. Yeah. Obviously, Freddie is. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Love that she's in our office now. Like, it's really cool. But just do those things for your marriage, man. Make an investment in your marriage. An investment in your marriage isn't a long vacation.
Yeah.
An investment is to sit down and how to figure out how to do this right. Because I've always said there's 2 things we all suck at: marriage and parenthood. Because you've never been either.
Yeah.
And you just got to get in the weeds and figure it out. And like, if you can have somebody like a counselor help you figure that out and shorten that learning curve, then do it. What is it, $100 an hour? Like, it's way more expensive than that. Divorce.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, you're not going to find an attorney that cheap. Like, so like, I'm just saying, like, just go get a tune-up, man. Like, it is, it's worked wonders for us.
Yeah.
Like, because we are so different. She's life of the party, right out there in the middle, and I'm over here like, I'm just chill.
Yeah, you're just chilling.
I'm the scientist. Like, I'm sitting and observing everything, making mental notes, and like, but I ain't got to be out there.
Yeah.
She got to be right out there in the middle, which is, hey, I'm
Yeah.
pushing her on. Hey, get out there, girl. Go have fun, you know? So,
I didn't know that you were super into science and biology.
yeah, I'm a
didn't know that.
nerd, man. I'm a nerd. You've probably seen me walking in the back parking lot from time to time. I just go out there and check on my native grasses that are growing on the power line. I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
I'm a big nerd. Because I think like what's really cool, once you develop that relationship with Jesus, like you can see the Bible in action
Yeah.
in your environment. Like you basically see the death, burial, and resurrection every year.
Mm-hmm.
Like fall, winter, spring.
Mm-hmm.
And so to like observe that whole process is really, to me, it's really cool. It puts it in a more hands-on way than just reading it in the Bible.
Yeah.
Like if I watch a tree or plants or even animals do this thing and complete this cycle, I'm like,
yeah,
oh yeah, we're coming back out of that ground.
That's awesome.
Like it's really cool to see. So yeah, I'm a big nerd.
So for you with Jesus, was it more of a hurdle, like giving up like worldly stuff you loved, or like also believing in biology stuff? Because super scientific people are like all into evolution. And
they are, and I'm even into evolution. I believe in evolution. Let me rephrase that. Not the theory of evolution, but I do believe that with our designer, he gave us the ability to evolve.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think that we crawled out.
Yeah.
I'm not an amoeba guy. I'm not into that bag.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not into the Big Bang Theory. I'm not into no.
Yeah. Well, they've proven it. You've seen animals of like, a tribe of lions or whatever who hunt a specific way. Like their genes have, through generations have continued because they've adapted to like. So there's evolution.
It's an evolution process, and I think, but no, I didn't have a problem with that because I just used the natural world to back up what the Bible taught me.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, like I would then go back and see things there that would kind of help understand what he meant by scripture. And like, you get in it and you start looking, and like for us as wildlife managers, because that's what we technically it's what we are.
Uh-huh.
We're hunters, but we're managing the land and everything to be at its best potential so that it takes care of the animals. And then we tax it for a few animals. Like, it's fine. We get our cut. They get their cut. They win in the end.
Mm-hmm.
We just have short-term gain over their stuff. But you can kind of see, like, pruning of vines and how that, when he's talking about that, what that new growth looks like and how it should be, cutting off the bad or cutting down the bad. And then it's replaced with new life. And so, like, you can really see a lot of that stuff out there in nature where you wouldn't, then you kind of just have to believe what the story says, which is vitally important.
Uh-huh.
But when you get to see it, like me, I'm a big proof guy. Like I need to see it. So when I see it, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like there you go. There's John 15 right there. Cool, man. Let's moving on.
No, shoot, John. Yeah, no, John. John 15:5 is my favorite. It's my favorite Bible verse.
Yeah. So it's really, really neat. But the worldly stuff wasn't bad for me either. Like I just cut ties with all of my old friends at the time because I wasn't mature enough to be able to take that back. I knew I would fall into it, so I just cut it off.
Speaking of pruning,
I just cut it off. And it wasn't them. That was me. That was just simply me saying I can't be there because that's not where I want to be, and I know that I'll go back. So cut it there. Started really spending a lot of time with these guys and people that were way older than me.
Yeah.
And it really got me into a spot where then a few years later I circled back and rekindled some of my friendships back then. And like we're back to being like we never even missed those 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Like so it's but I had to do that at the time because if not I was gonna fall right back in. I wasn't strong enough yet. You know, and I didn't want to do the verse, go on sinning so grace can be more abundant. No, I didn't want to do that either.
Romans
like
6,
I wanted the change to be the change.
Yeah.
And so for me, that meant cutting off my ties to the world, and which is really fine with me because I'm an introvert anyway. Like I can go home and sit in the dark and we're cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But it's really cool now to have rekindled that and to see their lives change and things that happen to them, and now to lift up and encourage, and you're just kind of doing a whole cycle of things, and it's really cool.
That's awesome. Because there is a way to go about it. Because I was the same, man. Like when I got to college, I had this group who I just knew just was not, I just knew was they were not the people I needed to be hanging out with if I was going to want to pursue, Jesus. And I did make that step to just quit hanging out with them. And, it was basically like cold turkey. And to some people, it's like, that's judgmental, hypocritical, but it's what you make of it. It's like, if you quit hanging out with them and you're constantly judging them, then maybe, yeah. But if you're doing it for yourself because, because for me, I know my personality, like at that point, if I still wanted to pursue this, but dabble in this, then it was only 3 months before I was just back in it. Because I'd seen that pattern throughout high school. I'd want to get serious about faith, but then I would keep going to parties and drinking and smoking, whatever. So so you can see all those things of like, it's what you make of it. Like, yeah, you can take the judgmental approach, but you can also just cut it off and pursue what you need to pursue. And that's just really cool to hear you say that because, I think sometimes we can just be scared to do that because we're afraid we're going to offend someone. How's it going to come off? But it's
I had to listen to it from them. Oh, you a holy roller now? You this, that, and the other. I was like, hey man, y'all keep doing what you're doing, bro. Like,
I'm not judging.
It's not for me. Yeah. Like at this point in my life, that's not for. And I was very clear about that. I ain't judging y'all.
Yeah,
y'all do it. Let me figure this part out, and then we'll reconvene. Like, and then so I was like, and it was fine. Like we were fine. They respected my decision. I respected theirs. And like I said, most of us are friends, and now still friends. And now it's weird because we're getting older. And one thing that happens when you get older, you start seeing each other at funerals and just different things. And then you really get to have some really cool life conversations that if you had stayed and y'all all kept doing the same path, what would you wouldn't have that opportunity. Because odds are that may have been one of us up there in that box. Like if you kept going down that road. So, I think it was absolutely necessary for me, but I think everybody's different. But you did hit on it. When you cut yourself from that life, don't sit there and judge what they're doing. It needs to be a focus on you. Yeah. Like, you're taking basically kind of a page, so to speak, out of the monk's book, and you're going into isolation for a little bit so that you can grow up, not condemn them. Because if you're condemning them, you're no better than if you were still in there with them. That's not our job.
You're almost even worse.
That's not our job. Yeah. Like, there's a judge and I'm not him. Yeah. Like, and, so that's, if you go down that road of isolation to condemnation, that's a problem. Like,
Well, it's one of two ways, right? It's like you either, because there can be good things that come from like still keeping some relationships if it's to like truly bring Jesus into it. So it's almost like it's either you have to completely cut it off because you're going to go back to it, or there's something on your life that you can still kind of be in it, but not really struggle with it and try to pull people out. But there's no room for the whole judgmental part.
Yeah, and there's not
those people are just the worst to be around.
Ain't that the truth? And they're when they have 1 foot in this one and 1 foot in that one, you're like, that's the ones where people, Christians get a bad name because they're straddling the line and you don't know which part of the line they're on. Which I can tell you right now, if you don't know which part of the line they're on, they're on the other one. Yeah, they're not on this one.
No, and Revelation says that he'll spit you out of his mouth. So it's like, that's a pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I don't want to be treated like a sunflower seed.
No, no, thank you, no, thank you. Well, you kind of touched on this early on. I want to just kind of briefly talk about it for a second because I would not, if I saw you, I just would not think that you were a conflict avoider. You're a bigger guy. You're just you have a presence. What? So I'm guessing you're an Enneagram 7, maybe.
I don't know. I've never taken one of those.
You never taken one?
No.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't know because you try to avoid conflict and just try.
I do.
Just kind of push
I try to. My deal with conflict, I try to avoid it, but I'm not scared of it. Like, if there's another way to work it out without it being a quote unquote conflict, that's what I'm going to choose. Yeah. And that's just, and that goes, you can ask the people here as I'm general manager that work up under me. I'm not the guy to call you in my office and chew your butt out. It's not the way I am. It's like, hey, let's sit and talk. Let's figure out a path through this. Yeah. Without it being adversarial. Yeah. Like, I always want to give the approach that I'm building you up. Like, here's a change I've noticed that I think you can make that would make you infinitely better in your position. Yeah. But it's not really stop doing this, stop doing that. And because that's what I see as conflict. Yeah. Versus when you actually say, look, man, I've noticed like you're struggling with this, but why don't we try this and see how that helps? And
Yeah.
so, and that way you're giving them the power
Yeah.
to make the change. And I think when you do that, I think in my mind, it's the difference between being a boss and being a leader.
Yeah.
A boss is the person who comes in there, yeah.
Yeah.
And a leader is one that'll get in there in the weeds with their employees and do the thing. And I say employees, your wife, your kids, you get in the weeds with them.
Yeah.
And let's all get out of it together versus here's the recipe.
Yeah.
Get out of it yourself. Good luck. I'm being here doing my thing. I'm not about that life. Like, because I mean, I think I got that probably instilled in me from football. Coach Don Shaw's, legendary high school football coach here in West Monroe, was not, now look, that little short rascal would jump up there and grab my face mask and pull me down. And the whole time he was yelling at me, had a smile on his face, and I knew that he loved me.
Yeah.
And he only wanted me to be better. But he was never tearing me down as he was yelling at me. It was always to build me up. And at the time, I thought it was 100% tearing me down. I hate this guy.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? And then, like, 3 years removed from it, I'm like, I walked up to him one day, just hugged his neck. I said, I never knew what you were preparing me for, but thank you.
Yeah,
like,
that's cool.
You know, and that was, and I've taken that kind of directive in my life. Like, that's just it's just the way I prefer to do things. Let's build it up versus tear you down.
Yeah.
Like, the world will tear you down. You don't need me for that.
Yeah.
The world will do that for you. How do I help build you up?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of
how
I avoid conflict.
If you've been listening to this podcast or if you follow me on social media, you've seen me talk about AG1 in the past before. AG1 is something that I love to drink in the mornings before I go to my workouts. And even on days that I don't work out, I still love to drink it in the mornings because there are so many benefits that it gives me. It improves my gut health. It helps my mood, my brain function, and so many things. Plus, I think it tastes delicious. And I love it so much because I get to travel with it too. My wife and I travel so many places. And oftentimes, as you can imagine, there are not many healthy options on the go. And even just something that I think tastes good. We go to a lot of different places and I don't like any options that they have, which is why I love to bring my AG1 travel packs with me on the go. They can fit in your pocket, your DOP kit, your travel suitcase, your backpack, whatever you can bring. They're just in a little package and you just rip it open and you pour it in however much water that you desire. And there's so many benefits. And AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization, stress management, and immune support. Since 2010, AG1 has led the future of foundational nutrition, continuously refining their formula to create a smarter, better way to elevate your baseline health. And like I said, AG1 has so many ingredients, but two of my favorite ingredients that they have are their adaptogens to help balance my body's stress levels, and their prebiotics and their probiotics and their digestive enzymes for my gut support, because I like to eat a lot of food, and when I drink AG1, I feel like it helps with my gut support and all my immune support and all the good things that I need to take. Plus, like I've said, I think it tastes delicious, and I just love to drink it in the mornings. It gets me ready for the day. I don't like to drink caffeine in the mornings, but I love to drink AG1 because it just gets me ready for the day. And not only do I drink it, but I recommend AG1 to all my friends and family. Sadie loves to drink it. She is all about AG1. My parents have gotten on it. My brother and my sister-in-law. You've heard me talk about my neighbor before, and John David from the Duck Room podcast is on AG1 as well. So many people that I love and that I know really well love to take AG1. And like I said, anytime that people ask me supplements that I love to take, AG1 is always at the top of the list. AG1 is the supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why they've been a partner for so long. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/Huff. That's drinkag1.com/Huff. Go check it out. That's awesome. Well, with conflict, like with your personality type of kind of wanting to, avoid it, like you said, how do you deal with criticism and like critique in marriage, for instance? Like because sometimes, like for me, if Sadie points something out, I can be defensive about it and be like, well, did you not see me do a plethora of other things? So how do you still lead the household, but like not retreat back for something like that where you know that you could be doing something better?
So this is one of our biggest conflicts in marriage is how I deal with it.
Yeah.
Because the man in me wants to be defensive a little bit. But I know if I go on the defensive, so is she. I figured that out. I was like, okay. So I generally just sit there and listen, and it drives her crazy because she wants me to talk back. But I at that point, I know better because I'm just going to say something that's going to escalate it to the next level. So I just sit and listen, and I generally walk outside, and I process what she just said. And I try to remove all tone, all emotion, all things from what she just said, and just get back to the words of what she said. And when I've processed that, I go back in and say, okay, I hear you. Like, I will absolutely 100% work on that. And if I don't agree with that assessment, then I'd basically say the same thing. I hear you, but here's my thoughts on that. And then so it kind of calms and diffuses the whole thing. But, sometimes, I mean, not saying that conflict and confrontation isn't a healthy thing, but it can get real unhealthy real quick. Yeah. And so it's kind of a way to kind of wade through those two things while keeping the ones that are there that are productive. You can, but for the most part, like, let's talk. And I don't like being criticized. Who does, right? Like, and I say that I don't like being criticized from people I love and that I know love me, because in some way I know that I've hurt them, and that's that you don't want to do that. Now online, call me fat, call me bald, I don't care what you criticize me all you want to. I care less. Like, that does not bother me. Everybody's like, you read those comments? I'm like, heck yeah, I read them. I laugh. Like, I think it's hilarious. Like, that stuff doesn't bother me, but when it's from somebody close to you.
Yeah.
Those are real deals, because in some way you've caused them to feel that way. And I want to do everything I can to make sure that I never cause them to feel that way again. So that's why I walk out. Every time I walk outside, I sit in a rocking chair on the back patio, and I just replay the conversation in my head to make sure that I'm hearing what I think is her point before I go back in and let's talk about this. Because, I mean, I can fly off the handle. Who can't? And like, a lot of times what we'll do too is we will write stuff down, stick it on the bedside table, stick it in the bathroom mirror, something like that, to say, look, last night, didn't really like this. Let's talk about it sometime whenever, we think we're both ready. And a lot of stuff gets resolved. Some of them get thrown up and you never talk about them anymore because it never becomes a point of contention again.
Yeah.
So it's just a communication thing. Like, the communication, whether it's written, verbal, physical, whatever, you got to make sure you do your best at communicating, which is really hard for me because I'm an introvert. I like to listen and gather, and I don't like to spit a lot out. Where she is spit everything out, all of it, the whole time. And I love that about her. And I actually envy that and admire, because I wish there were parts of me that could do that. And she always says, she said, and I wish I could be like you and just not let some of this stuff bother me and just move on down the road. So, I mean, it's really a cool ebb and flow.
Yeah, that's cool.
And as long as you're on the same page and you know that your end goal is the same, you can't really get too far out of line. Like, it's just not going to ever get too far out of there. Now, there's times like the end of duck season is always a stressful time because she's been alone a lot.
Yeah.
And women more so need that companionship, more so than men. I mean, like, from their partner. So, come February 1st, it's time to recoup. It's time to recoup. But like this year I did something I've never done, and it may become a deal. Like, we're leaving December 29th and we'll be back January the 2nd. We're going on 5 days to Mexico to let her have some sun, sand, and life. And I'm going to be sitting there not checking my phone, looking at ducks. It's going to be really hard, but it's a commitment that I made to show her, like, I hear you. Let's go. Yeah, if that's what you want to do, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Be our first trip away without the kids at all. So I think it'll be really fun in the grand scheme of things. So that's going to be hard. Yeah. Because those 5 days are generally really, really good duck hunting. But I'm not going to do it. I told her, I said, I'm turning my phone off. We're not worried about it. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. I agree with that. Cause even like I've been deer hunting the last couple of times, and because there is something about like trying to navigate, like, cause I just feel guilty. All right. Like, I went hunting think 3 or 4 times, and I left at like 3:50 in the morning. And I'm not lying. Every day I went hunting that early. Honey woke up at 4 a.m. And I'm like, and then the next day she was like, "Can you please just not come? Because I think Honey's gonna wake up." And she slept until 11. And I was like, I was getting so mad. I was like, every day I choose to go hunting, both of the kids were awake at 4:30 screaming, and Sadie's by herself there with no help.
Yeah.
And I'm like, then I'm like, I feel guilty. Then I don't want to go do it. Then I'm sitting in the deer stand, can't even enjoy being out in creation because I'm like, I wish I was home because Sadie needs help, yada, yada, yada. So even just navigating all those things, and the last thing I kind of want to ask you is, it's just this idea of refining, right? Because we talked about pruning, and it is, the bad fruits in our life that God's pruning and cutting off. But this idea of refining, like each season, or maybe not season, but each stage is more refining. Like dating for me was more refining than singleness, and then engagement more than dating, marriage more than engagement, and then kids is like 10x times whatever.
Man.
So, and I was going to ask you your first reaction when you first had twins, but I think you kind of already did it. Just a sigh of deep breath. But for you, what has been the most refining thing of having kids?
Well, I think it is so weird because, man, we were to the point like, I'm 38, and we had tried a few times, off and on, and just didn't happen. And then finally, you just get to a point like, okay, maybe this isn't in the cards for us, and adoption is, and all that kind of. So, you've bridged that gap mentally, which is a big gap to bridge, which is cool though, because we're totally cool with adoption, and we're still not ruling it out. If we feel like we need another kid to complete our family, adoption is very much on the table. Biologically is not. I have had that issue resolved because it was a big enough shock going from 0 to 2. I couldn't even imagine what would happen if you went from 2 to 4. So we're like, no, get that out of here. But with that being said, it is so, I'll never forget, like when we went in, she had to have C-sections. We had one breech and one ready, but the doctor was like, we're just going to do both C-section. We're not going to put you through, like, we're not going to have kids born 7-8 hours apart, potentially. We're not going to put you through that, Mom.
Yeah.
So we did C-section. And when they pulled Waylon out of there, I have never been more terrified in all of my life. Like, thrilled, obviously, but just pure, unadulterated terror. Like, I am now responsible for him.
Yeah.
For
forever.
For forever. Like, God, are you sure?
Yeah.
That you want him under my direction? Are you sure? But it's too late now. And then when they got Jackson out and held him up, I was like, I think I'm going to pass out.
More terror.
It went from terror to like paralyzation. And I was just like, because I love kids. I always have, like, but I've never been solely responsible. And I'm not solely, obviously. But we are a unit as one. So we are solely responsible for this child's life and well-being. And they don't give you a manual. They just pat you on the butt and say, good luck. We'll see you in 5 days or whatever. And it was just so wild. But as we have grown through the seasons, like, I'm not going to lie, tell anybody that parenthood for me has been great and wonderful. And all them first 6 months were miserable for us. I mean, we got 2 of them. They're on kind of different schedules. Like, we're trying to keep them on the same schedule, but one's growing faster than the other. And like, it was just misery. And then all of a sudden you look up one day and it was about 6-7 months. And it's like this calmness comes for us. It just was like, okay, we think this feels right now. This feels normal. It feels natural. Like, the kids are starting to interact with you. They're smiling, they're laughing. And you're like, I see a path forward. And then fast forward to now at a year, they are infinitely more fun than they were at 6 and 7 months.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, it's hard for me to stay in the present because I'm just so anticipating the future. Because I'm like, well, if this is this fun, what's this next stage going to be?
Yeah.
And the next stage. So it's like, it's a really cool transformation. But it's like you said, like during teal season, wasn't that bad because the hunting sucked. So I didn't really want them there. I was like, man, I'm glad I ain't have to take them today. This would have sucked. But now, like, I went deer hunting last week. I shot a doe, and the only thing I could think about is like, man, I wish they were here. Like I'm ready for that stage of where walking with their little flashlight right beside me, and like, so that's what I'm really
That's cool.
like anticipating, looking forward to, is to immerse them in the outdoors. And if they want to hunt and fish, great. If they don't, great. I'm not going to force it on them, but I will introduce them and hopefully impart on them a respect for all things wild. And they can choose to do with that what they will. I'm never going to force them to do anything they don't want to do hobby wise. Now, there will be behaviors that
yeah, for sure,
we have to break. But I told Brittany last night, I do a lot of the bath time because generally she's with them most of the day, or because she's a stay-at-home mom right now. The good Lord has blessed us I make enough income where she can stay home, and we don't have to really depend on other people to raise our kids or anything. And that's really fun and really cool. So when I get home, I kind of take over. And from 5 to bedtime, I'm kind of the point man. So we were in the bathtub. She come walking in there, and Jackson goes to stand up in the bathtub, which is a big no-no. And I just point at him and I say, no. And he plopped right back down. And she looked at me and she's like, how'd you get him to do that? I said, well, what you haven't seen, even though he's a year old, I just tap him on his hand. I say no, and I sit him back down, and I say, good job. Good job, buddy. And she's like, where did you learn that? I said, from training our dog. Like, I said, it's just positive reinforcement of good behavior.
Yeah.
And so now, like, when he goes do it, I can just look at him and go, no. And he sits down and smiles at me because he knows I'm about to say, good job, buddy.
Yeah.
And his brother, a little more hard-headed. It's taking a little bit longer to break him of the standing in the bathtub habit, but he's getting there. But now Jackson, it's so weird, man. These kids, raised by the same people, born at the same time, everything's been the same, and they could not be more different.
That's crazy.
I got one, Jackson, who seems to be a people pleaser. Like, he don't want you to ever get onto him. And I got Waylon. Ooh, he looks at you while he's eating, grabs whatever he's eating, and goes,
yeah.
and drops it, and then just looks down at the dog, and I'm like, you little rascal. Like,
Honey's so funny. She has something, and she was feeding it to our dog, and I said, honey, you gonna get in trouble. She said, what'd she say? She said, are you gonna give me a spanking? I said, no. And she said, are you gonna put me in timeout? And I said, no. And then she said, and she's 2, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. So like, she's found the wiggle room of like what is tolerated. And I was like, then I just had to laugh because I was like, no, okay, hold on. Yeah. You can't do that just because there's not like physical disciplinary and things that I'm gonna do for you right now. You can't feed the dog
table scraps.
Table scraps. Yeah.
I mean, it's okay every once in a while, but like, yeah. But Waylon just. And he looks at you when he does it. He waits till he makes eye contact with you to do it. Like, if you're not paying attention to him, he won't do it. But as soon as y'all make eye contact while he's eating, whatever's in front of him.
It's so funny.
And just like Mike drops it. Yeah. And I'm like, you little punk. Yeah. Like, you know.
Yeah.
You know. And shame on me for letting it be known that it bothers me.
That's what's crazy. It's like, even at such a young age, like, they do know. Like, Honey has the hardest, she talks all day, but it is so hard for her to say, I'm sorry. At 2, and I'm like, it's 2 words. It's the same, like, just like saying anything else, like Barbie doll, like everything. But she just, like, the principle of I'm sorry, like, there's just something innate that she knows. There's just, it's just a stubbornness and just a hard-headedness. Yeah. It's crazy.
Amen. Amen. They're way smarter than we give them credit to be at that age. I can say that.
They are, man. Martin, it's good to know you. I love getting to just hear more of your story, just pre-Duck Commander, pre-Duck Dynasty. I didn't know any of that. Was really cool.
Yeah, man.
Just encouraged by it. So
I'm an open book. I tell everybody that. I'm the good Lord could have burned me 100 times over, and He didn't. So I figure there's a reason. So
yeah,
no reason to hide any of it.
That's true.
I don't think I'm Phil's level where I want a movie made about it. There's some pretty unsavory stuff there.
I definitely don't want a movie made of my worst stuff for sure.
But if you ask me about it, I'm not going to shy away from it too, because you know what? I did it. I own my mistakes, and just the way I was raised. And if you did it, whether it's yay or nay, admit it, own it, and move on. So No, it's fun, man.
Well, man,
we'll have to slide you over 10 feet and talk about your
come
latest
on.
deer hunting follies too. So I like that.
I'll get on it, man. Well, thanks for being on the 4-8 Men podcast. Hopefully, you're encouraged by our conversation and you go get out in the woods and go do all the things. But more than that, we hope that you, that you find things in your life that you feel like God is pruning and you accept that, because a lot of times there's things that we know that we need to cut off, but it can be painful and we don't want it to happen. So I hope that you're encouraged by it and that you do repent of things that you've been going through. And, if you want to choose to get baptized, I think that'd be amazing. And, just let God do whatever he needs to do in your life to get you to where you need to be. So thank you for tuning in. And Martin, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Absolutely.